look like 10 miles of rough road. Everyone put a 1 in the chat for Joyce.
So who exactly is Foodie Beauty? I have to admit, until a few months ago, I thought Foodie Beauty and the Hungry Fat Chick were the same person. I'm not interested in mukbangs, so I never watch their content. It turns out they're very different in their personality. Foodie Beauty is a social media person from Canada who vlogs her life. As someone who has trained, taught and instructed thousands of girls and women over the years, I assumed she was approaching retirement age. I was a little shocked then to find that she was actually under 40. Contrary to what people may assume, I actually don't care what adults look like. If people want to adopt lifestyle choices that make them look 10, 20, 30 years older, that is up to them. The only people I'm really concerned about are children and teenagers. I am obligated to give them the correct information about diet and fitness. Now, if they choose to ignore it when they get older, that's on them. Watching the first few hours of Foodie Beauty videos, I thought she's a woman who's proud of her body, so there's nothing really here to analyse at all. I initially thought she accepted what she had done to her body with her own lifestyle choices with grace. But after watching more of her videos, she seemed to be very angry. In fact, a lot of the time she was incandescent with rage and very bitter and hostile.
Single fucking average sized body piece of shit on the fucking plane can kiss my fucking ass. Oh, sorry. You know what? I'm gonna say that too. Oh, sorry. I'm infringing on your little piece of shit fucking airplane space, skinny asshole. I don't care.
She would often create situations and scenarios that were negative so she could argue with people that didn't really exist. And when I say don't really exist, I mean they don't exist at all. But what made me eventually throw my hat into the Foodie Beauty ring and get involved was her claims about fitness and exercise. I found while Amberlyn Reid would Frankenstein genuine health and fitness information together to fit her own narrative, Foodie Beauty would just create things. She would lie.
47, you cannot do more than me, bitch. 47, you cannot do more than me, bitch. I just walked 25 minutes, biatch. What? Huh? Yeah, let's not go there.
She's her first marathon at 76 years old. And this weekend, her hand to her heart, about to do it again at 92. On the left, there's Harriet, a two-time cancer survivor. Her 16th marathon, this one in San Diego. 7 hours, 24 minutes later.
47, you cannot do more than me, bitch.
Having run several senior walking groups with people who are over 90, our sessions are 60 minutes. 25 minutes would be our warm-up. The way she spoke about things was beyond a lie. It seemed as if she had never seen another human. Watching even more of her videos, I changed my mind a bit. I think she genuinely believes she is fitter and looks much younger than she actually does. In her head, everything she says is true. So I'm going to try to show you how her mind works. When I was at university, I had a professor who always vowed to fail students that try to do research on human nature just by using 5 of their friends or their roommates. His logic was you could not possibly understand human nature by looking at 5 people out of 7.5 billion people. He said we should try to imagine the 7.5 billion people on the planet all are jigsaw pieces. You cannot work out what a 7.5 billion piece jigsaw puzzle will be just by 5 pieces. You can't see the bigger picture. Similarly, you can't work out what human nature is like just by speaking to 5 of your friends. He knew that we couldn't do research on 7.5 billion people, but he always encouraged us to work with as many people as possible for any research that we conducted. The more people that we interacted with, the more pieces of the puzzle that we got, the more that we would see the bigger picture. So whether we were doing psychological research, physical research, or sociological research, we had to get as many puzzle pieces as possible to understand humans. So now we can take that information back to Foodie Beauty. Foodie Beauty has a very reclusive lifestyle. While she is not technically a shut-in, she travels in society in a protective bubble. She actively avoids interacting with the public or strangers. So without human interaction, she just hasn't collected a great deal of those puzzle pieces. She tries to make sense of the world with the few puzzle pieces that she has, rather like a child who has a few puzzle pieces because they don't have life experiences, tries to make sense of the world. As children, we have very few puzzle pieces because we have no life experience and we interact with very few people. As we age, we interact with more people, we get more puzzle pieces, we get a better understanding of what humans are. But if you don't interact with people as you grow up or as an adult, it doesn't matter how old you are or how much academic prowess you have, your view on the world will still remain childlike. I admit, at one point when watching her videos, I actually thought it was either a joke and she was a paid actress, or this was some form of sociological experiment. It was just confusing that somebody of her age was acting like she was new to the world, such as being an alien or a newborn, but she was living in the world. But that was my bad, as she wasn't living in the world at all. She lives on the edge of the world, avoiding humans, and when she does have to interact with humans face to face, she cocoons herself in a bubble and has as little interaction with people as possible. So while she may be able to tell us about her personal relationships, she will never be able to tell us about the world because she simply hasn't interacted with enough people. Now, this explained her ignorance of humans, but it didn't explain her aggression and her hatred. Namely, why was this woman so angry? To find out why, I had to split YouTubers and social media people into 3 categories. And these were the average Joes, the influencers, and the antisocial oddities. So let's look at the average Joes. These consist of students and adults in paid or unpaid work. I consider charity and voluntary work as bona fide work. The average Joe takes part in social media as an extension of their job, as a platform for their hobby, or just to say to the world, I was here. Next, we have the influencers. Now, a lot of them have started as the average Joes. They will have millions of followers, lucrative advertising and sponsorship deals, and loads of collaborations. They are paid and bankrolled to show how fantastic life can be when you've got money. And the final category is the antisocial oddity. These people do exist in everyday life, but because they're antisocial, we tend not to interact with them. We are curious because they're different and they are not like the people that we interact with on a daily basis. So social media gives us a portal into their lives, and it also gives them a portal to communicate with people that they would be ignoring on a daily basis. So here comes the fun part. Did Foodie Beauty fit into being an average Joe? Nope, because she wasn't a student, she wasn't in gainful employment, she wasn't doing charity work, she wasn't doing voluntary work, she wasn't working from home, she wasn't a remote worker. There were no managers, supervisors, agents, work colleagues, nobody. So if she wasn't an average Joe, was she an influencer? There was a recurring theme in her rants that her audience were jealous of her beauty and the lifestyle that she was leading. Now, I thought she looked a little bit long in the tooth for being a Gen Z Zoomer. However, if she was living the Coachella lifestyle, good for her. So I diligently trawled through her videos to see if I can find this influencer lifestyle. If she did have a beautiful people lifestyle, I could see that a few people would be haters and jealous, and this is what I found. I also used other influencers who had that Coachella lifestyle as a control to compare and contrast her life.
Currently in Coachella. Who would have thought? Not me. No, we're not actually in like the grounds though. Right now we're in like the VIP shaded section. We're just getting some food, some snacks.
Beauty bite! I'm kind of holding it. I don't think it's meant to hold this much food.
While I found dozens and dozens and dozens of videos of her eating alone in her car or at home, I didn't find her interacting with any young people at festivals or gatherings. She was not a Coachella girl. So I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Not all influencers are outdoor people. She could be a nightclub and party girl instead. As she was adamant that people were jealous of her lifestyle, I did look for the parties, the nightclubs, the award ceremonies, and this is what I found. She was no Gen Z influencer.
People wishing they were me. You wish you were me. You know. That's why you fucking hate, because you're fucking jealous. I'm in a very well-lit parking lot on a binge. It's 2:48 in the morning right now. Put 10.
Where my people at? Where my people at?
She's not young, she doesn't associate with young people, she doesn't make young people content. She was not a Gen Z influencer. So there was one category left. But before I put her in that category, I had to make sure that she didn't have advertisers, sponsors, and collaborators working with her. Because if they believe you are influential and an influencer, they will throw money at you. And there are people on YouTube and social media that have half her viewership, and advertisers and sponsors still work with them. She didn't have any sponsors, she didn't have any advertisers, and she didn't have any collaborators or any brand deals. She was not an influencer. Advertisers and sponsors will not work with people that are antisocial or unemployable for obvious reasons, no matter how many views that person has. There was only one place left that she could go, and that was in the category of the antisocial oddity. For the purpose of this video, we're going to give them 10 character traits. Their flight or fight response is wonky, or to make it easier, imagine that there's a button for your flight and fight response. Their button is damaged. This leaves them in a permanent state of fight or flight. Normally, we would only go into fight or flight mode if we perceive something to be dangerous, intimidating, or stressful, like being alone in an isolated park at night. But their flight or fight mode is on all the time, even when things aren't intimidating or frightening.
It's a little bit rainy, but there's no wind, and it's good because there's no people.
They will actively remove themselves away from people and stay by themselves. Now, this is not because they're scared of people or social anxiety. It's more sinister than that. If they can't control you, namely abuse you or use you, they don't want to be around you. And if they are forced to be around you, they're going to fight you. They are very godlike and dictatorial. They're superior.
Don't try and cancel me.
What?
I don't give a fuck.
What the fuck?
I don't care. Cancel me. I do not care. I don't care. I exist outside of the matrix. No one can damage me. Doesn't matter. I don't even have a fucking account. What are you gonna do? Ban me? I don't even have an account.
Well, our opinions have been invalidated so many times of him that we're gonna disable his Patreon. Wow. Wow, you would really do that. You would really do that!
I don't care if I get deleted from YouTube. I don't care, because I will rise and I will go on any platform I want to. Don't you fucking worry, and you will follow me. So there you go.
Well, Chantel certainly ticked that box. Now, the next category was unemployable. Now, I don't mean unemployed, because as I said before, you can be unemployed and doing charity or voluntary work. I also don't mean the person is poor. You can be very rich and be an antisocial oddity. They cannot take instructions or orders from somebody else. They will abuse their work colleagues. They have very little job satisfaction or ambition to work. In fact, it interferes with their everyday living.
We have 2 breaks. Every 2 hours we get a break. After the first 2 hours, break. After the next 2 hours, that's when our lunch is, but really it's going to be dinner. And then we get another break after the next 2 hours. So, like, this is our snacks. We sit at our desk all day long doing government type of deals. But let me tell you, we can't have snacks there. But the only thing we're allowed to have is chewy candy that isn't sticky or hard candy to suck on. We got the lemon head kind, which has apple head, cherry head, and lemon head, like I said before. Okay, so these are the Tootsie Fruit Chews. We got some fruit, or some chewy fruities. Never had these before, but anything that's fruity and chewy, I will eat. I'm just gonna do this full pack. Some crybabies to suck on, because I'm a crybaby. These are hard candies. They're assorted fruits, fools, whatever.
I've been unemployed for most of my adult life, and the worst thing about being unemployed is having to go to this stupid job centre. If you don't know what the job centre is, it's basically a place that you go to, and they give you money if you don't have a job. Which kind of makes you think to yourself, what's the point in getting a job if they're going to give me money anyway?
So since I've got nothing better to do and I've got 2 hours to kill, why don't I give you a tour of where I work? I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for doing this. I'm going to quit anyway, so it doesn't really matter if they fire me.
How can I use these women to make me money? I don't want to put them on the track because they're my women. I don't want people touching my thing. By coincidence, I'm just Googling things up and I discovered this webcam website. I'd never heard of webcam before. This is a long time ago as well. It wasn't as big as it is now. Now everyone knows about OnlyFans, all this shit. Like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, whenever this was, it wasn't nearly as big. And I found this little webcam thing. And I was like, this might be some money.
The third trait is that they're influenced by themselves, and that would make sense because they're godlike. Now, I'm not one for hero worship. That can be dangerous. But I do have people that inspire me, that influence me, and I admire. They have themselves.
And it just feels unfair. How do they get visas so easily and I'm just stuck here as a tourist? I look way more Japanese than they do, and I probably speak much better Japanese than they do as well. And I've been to Japan way more times than they have. And I think I have a much better understanding of the culture as well.
They are rarely inspired by the achievements of others, so they will never try to replicate what they do to gain success. Instead, they get bitter. So they don't get better, they get bitter. And they think their achievements are much greater than they actually are.
And the fact that I can sing in the shower, let alone sing Skyscraper by Demi Lovato and like not be out of breath while hitting those high ass notes, just goes to show like, wow, okay, you're doing your thing, Amberlyn.
Amberlyn can sing a high note in the shower. So she's now concluded she has normal cardiovascular fitness. Likewise, Chantel is so out of touch with humans, she thinks 25 minutes of walking is a flex.
I just walked 25 minutes, biatch. What? Huh? Let's not go there.
Let's go there. If she didn't ask rhetorical questions all the time and bothered to speak to somebody else and listen to the answer, she would realize that 25 minutes is very, very poor cardiovascular fitness. It certainly isn't a flex.
Vegetarian body! Ah! This is my body!
You are indeed right, sir. That is your body. What tends to throw the antisocial oddity into the public spotlight are their opinions. They're normally extreme and rigid, but also they have rules and regulations that they set out for other people, which are also rigid. While they cannot follow basic rules or regulations, they can create the most dictatorial, extreme, and rigid rules for others. In human development, we all go through the stage where we are the center of the universe, but we socialize, we mature, and we grow out of it. They never do. If you remember being a 2-year-old, you raised a 2-year-old, or you've ever worked with a 2-year-old, it's all about what they want and what they desire. For various reasons, antisocial oddities never grow out of this stage.
Because of her disease, it's difficult for this little girl to live a normal life, but her classmates are doing everything they can to make sure she feels included in playtime.
Around the age of 4 or 5, most people will begin to feel some kind of empathy or sympathy for people that are vulnerable. We have a sense of group and society and wanting to see other people happy. They don't. As they are godlike, they are above other people's rules and regulations. So they have a what's in it for me approach, even at a very young age. They cannot understand why people are following rules, regulations, and guidelines written by riffraff when people should really be listening to them. Their views are never based on the good of the people, the good of society. Their views are based solely on their own wants, needs, and desires. Some of their views might accidentally resonate with the masses, but if you listen to them long enough, it's like listening to a child. When listening to antisocial oddities, at first we might be impressed because the information we are being told seems unique and novel. After about 15 minutes, we begin to see some holes and some flaws in their arguments, but we still give them the benefit of the doubt because they impressed us in the first 10 minutes. And after 30 minutes, you realise you're listening to a mishmash of self-absorbed, tyrannical, unpractical, unworkable nonsense. You just should be thankful that they are not running a country and you are not one of their subjects, because you probably would not be alive.
Where my people at? Where my people at?
Remember that I'm not talking about opinions. I'm talking about people that live outside society, creating rules and regulations, a manifesto on how society should live to please them. Staying on the manifesto, all their relationships have to be planned, which means they don't happen organically. If they don't have any use for you, they just don't want to be around you. If they can't use you or abuse you, you become utterly and thoroughly useless.
Is he right? When it comes to women, you've got a short attention span?
No, women know too much. I'm all for girls that don't know too much. It's a different class.
Here's a test where you meet a bitch for the first time. Say, what are you doing next week? Correct answer. Oh, nothing, just home. Attractive. That's what I want to hear. You ain't been nowhere. You don't go nowhere. Just home. Busy bitches, social bitches, unattractive. You're a hoe. You've been too many places. You're not home enough. You're not reading the Bible. Uninterested.
Everyone has their own personal preference of who they want to be around. It becomes antisocial if you are seeking out people to dominate and filtering out people because you can't use or abuse them. Now, if antisocial oddities were just filtering out or rejecting people that weren't a great fit for them, that would be one thing. But more often than not, they often belittle, dislike, resent, and full out hate the people they can't use. They simply don't see any purpose in you existing.
There was one time when I met this guy who knows my channel. I met him in Japan and then I hung out with a bunch of his friends. And it was so boring. Okay, the first hour was kind of nice, I guess. But after about an hour or two, I just felt really bored and I just wanted to go home. I was sitting there, listening to these people that I barely knew, listening to them tell me their life story. And I just honestly could not care less.
While they may filter out people, live in a bubble, and live on the edge of society, not within it, they also set themselves up as experts of humanity. They use social media to vent their frustrations and anger about the world, but they just don't have enough puzzle pieces to build up the greater picture. As consumers of social media and people that actually live within a society, we are curious to know what these adults with a few puzzle pieces actually think of the world. We know you live in a compound with your brother and you're not interacting with people. We know you spend most of the time hiding in your car or your house and you're not interacting with people. We know you've spent most of your life hiding in your childhood bedroom. And we know you get most of your opinions about the world from the comfort of your own bed. If you've reached the age of majority and you interact with a wide variety of people and you travel, you're going to know far more about the world than they will ever know. But you're still curious to know what is on their minds. I could have easily labeled them antisocial curiosities because people that interact with each other are curious about people that live on the edge of society. My personal view is I prefer to hear all that talk from a 2-year-old rather than an adult. So far, we've heard about people that are not successful, rejected, and filtered out by the antisocial oddity. But what happens if you're successful and you please them? Will these people make good romantic partners? Nope. That is because they're not attracted to you because they love you, like you, have anything in common with you. They haven't picked you because you have a shared interest, and they certainly don't want to grow old with you. They have picked you so they can use you. You are there to fulfill their needs only. You're there to be used when needed and discarded when you're not needed. While they may not always name their partners, there is nothing taboo that they won't speak about concerning their partners. And they will use what would normally be private and personal moments as a form of entertainment on social media.
Please, in your hand.
I'm not.
Give it to me.
If you ever find yourself vulnerable or sick, a 4-year-old will look after you better than an antisocial oddity. They are wired to have their needs met. They're not wired to give care or to look after people. They just don't understand how to do it. Their ideal partner is a robot. They don't grow old, they don't get sick, and they can be programmed to the person's liking. They don't understand what being charitable means. So they would never do anything like this.
Here I see that he shaved his head. I cut it off.
You cut off your hair? How come?
To make Zach feel like he's not the only one without any hair.
Just a few steps before the finish line, an exhausted athlete loses control of his body, which his opponents quickly take advantage of. All except one.
If you ever find yourself in a weakened or vulnerable state, expect to be pushed to one side. As they live on the outskirts of society, not within, they don't have the same connection to people. They see vulnerable or weak people as a nuisance, irrelevant, and also taking away attention that could be directed towards them. They have a what's in it for me attitude towards being charitable. On a day-to-day basis, they will be cold, aloof, and uncaring. They don't understand the emotions that some people have that stimulate them to help other people. That is missing in them. They will never do anything kind organically. Everything they do will always be planned. Human acts of kindness, which are organic, stimulate high emotion in us, but their acts of charity, which are contrived, often leave us cold.
Despite his on-screen persona, Savile's attitude to children was apparently different when the cameras were turned off.
He did not like children at all. He tolerated them, but that's about as far as it went for the value of the programme.
I think all children should be eaten at birth.
As well as his TV and radio career, Savile was renowned for his charity work, raising millions of pounds for several charities.
Jim, because he was Jim, liked high-profile things. So he generated to things that had quite a high publicity value.
If you are giving money or goods to get out of a problem or to get what you want, it's either PR or a bribe. It is not charity. And you are not charitable. In fact, you are the exact opposite. They do not understand or care about basic human suffering. They do understand if they give products or money, they can look good on camera.
Oh no.
I'm hungry. I ate something yesterday.
You should probably get some food.
You look after yourself, Becky, 'cause I won't.
So I am getting rid of this pile of stuff here. There's just like a grocery cart carrier situation, a blanket. Under here, there's like earrings, makeup brushes I've never used, purses, some books and stuff like that. And then I'm also getting rid of all of these DVDs, Pokemon cards. There are a few movies where I second guessed and I was like, oh my god, should I keep them? So we have made it to Goodwill, but it's closed, so we're just gonna leave it out here. Ta-da. Bye, Goodwill.
I will not administer CPR unless you're a hot female. This is the reality. If you're some fat dude and you just had a heart attack and I don't really know you, you're gonna die. Well, I had a heart attack. Get the fuck up. What the fuck's wrong with you? Go to the hospital later. Have a drink. Cigarette, cup of coffee. Get back in the game. Fucking having heart attacks near me, little pussy. I live with a very, very pure heart. I'm a religious man. I go to church. Anyone who follows me in detail knows I donate huge sums of money to the church. And as long as I knew the truth of my heart and God knew the truth of my heart, I wasn't interested in lies being purported.
I have no sympathy for him. I have no sympathy for her. You don't understand why I hate those people? Then goodbye. You don't need to be here. I have no sympathy for her mom. I have no sympathy for that whole fucking retirement home.
That is the logic of a crazed dictator that would burn down an entire city because somebody from that city was rude to them. Not long after posting this, she would seek out a random elderly couple, go on a social media tirade for a good 48 hours, assassinating every part of that couple's character. When challenged about her behaviour, she suddenly becomes the most charitable woman in the world. She's not able to understand the difference between selfless acts of charity and bribing somebody with goods to get what you want.
And I don't give a fuck. If I want to give a fucking Cuban man a fucking laptop, I will. But if you don't like it, fuck off. Are you jealous that you can't give a man a laptop? What's your problem? I can give 10 men a laptop. Are you fucking jealous? Do you know how much money I make a month? I hate having money. I hate making $50,000 a month, and I'm giving it all to poor people.
Just not these poor people. They look rich and self-sufficient. They don't need computers. Ah, this is much better. This is a type of person that needs charity. He can't afford a shirt.
As long as I'm white and privileged, I'm gonna fucking do everything I can with my money to help other people.
I will be discussing her Cuban charity mission later. Antisocial oddities also have zero sense of humour. While they do laugh, it's not because they're enjoying a joke with their friends or they're enjoying a TV programme. They tend not to laugh with people, they laugh at people. And if they're not laughing at people, they're laughing at their superiority or achievements.
Babe, I don't know how to get all this in here.
You look like 10 miles of rough road. Everyone put a one in the chat.
Their humour is often mean-spirited or just laughing at their own superiority or achievements. You could put these people on the moon and they would be able to live because they only care about flexing at locations and what people who are at those locations can do for them. They mobilise throughout society in a protective bubble, filtering most people out. They never will be a genuine visitor, tourist, or resident in any location or country. They have no interest in surroundings and people within those surroundings. If you watch them mobilise the world, they refuse to adapt to situations, locations, and people. They remain rigid and their behaviour remains the same. So that is the end of the list of characteristics for the antisocial oddity. So what does it mean for her in the long term? Antisocial oddities have no work skills and they are unemployable. So they have to make as much money as possible from social media. The general public is not as kind and loyal as they think. Just because ordinary or average people have developed empathy over the years doesn't stop us from being completely selfish. Once we get our fill or we've had enough or become bored with antisocial oddities and curiosities, we just move on to the next one. As they have no depth of character and they have a predictable lifestyle, once the novelty has worn off, we lose interest and we move on to somebody else. Ordinary people just have more skills in analysing their fellow humans. We have more puzzle pieces and we have more experience. While they appear to be unique, they are actually very replaceable. And secondly, because they do not make user-friendly content, there is a risk that they will become deplatformed. So if they are smart, they will try to make as much money as they can when they are in the public eye. Chantal has claimed to earn $50,000 a month. I hope she has invested it wisely. She certainly didn't spend that money buying computers for poor Cuban schools. She has been a benefactor to no one. And if she had interacted with people, she would have realised she could have written this all off as tax. This is just an extra bit I've added. I'm fascinated by travel vlogs because I do like people. But I'm not going to travel all around the world. I like to see ordinary people travel, interact with locals and tell me more about the countries of the world. But what fascinates me as well is how antisocial oddities differ from the average traveller. Remember, they don't have social anxiety. They are antisocial and they need to dominate people. So when I realised that Foodie Beauty went to Cuba, I was hooked. How would somebody who is antisocial with a broken fight or flight button behave in a foreign country? She booked a luxury inclusive resort in Cuba, which made sense. She was never going to be in an Airbnb or a hostel. She needed to be cocooned away from ordinary people. I was curious to see how she was going to make that transition from bedroom to beach without getting into a rage with other women. Was I wrong? Was I going to see her on a cruise, a jet ski, a speedboat, interacting with real people? She was flexing on her audience. They were jealous as usual.
They were me. You wish you were me. You know. That's why you fucking hate, because you're fucking jealous. Here's to you.
always remind our customers, if you're sad now, you might still feel sad there, okay? You understand? That makes sense? Our tours will take you to the most beautiful places on earth. But remember, you're still gonna be you on vacation.
As a dance teacher, I've never seen another human being do this move.
But does he know you call me when he...
To prevent interaction with local people, she hid herself on a resort. And to prevent interaction with her fellow tourists, she spent a lot of the time in her hotel room.
If you are sad where you are,
I'm just mourning. And not just because of him, because before him I had problems too, and they just all magnified because they weren't resolved. Now I'm back to square one with even more problems. That's how I feel.
and then you get on a plane to Italy. To you in Italy will be the same sad you from before, just in a new place. Does that make sense?
People wishing they were me. You wish you were me. You know. That's why you fucking hate, because you're fucking jealous. Here's to you.
There's a lot of vacation can do. Help you unwind, see some different looking squirrels.
She never even looked at a squirrel, just in case it made eye contact.
But it cannot fix deeper issues, like how you behave in group settings.
Fucking asshole, old piece of shit with wrinkly fucking balls. I hope he fucking... Honestly, this piece of shit ruined my whole fucking day at the lunch hall. He was in line with his fucking backpack. I had a burger and they don't have fucking relish. Oh, go back to Canada and get your fucking relish, you piece of fucking old shit.
Eavesdropping on a private conversation is not enough to ruin anybody's day, especially when it's two old people talking about relish. Chantal had simply run out of people to blame her misery on as she was on a luxury holiday, so she just picked on a random old couple. Anybody else would have used this trivial topic as an icebreaker just to engage in conversation with your fellow humans, but she says nothing. Chantal blows it out of proportion, works herself into a frenzy, and rages about them for 48 hours on live stream.
But it cannot fix deeper issues or your general baseline mood. That's a job for incremental lifestyle changes sustained over time.
People wishing they were me. You wish you were me. You know. That's why you fucking hate, because you're fucking jealous. Here's to you.
Asked what her favourite Cuba moment was by a fan, she didn't have an answer, so she avoided the question. Instead, she pretended she was so upset by her white privilege, the question was inappropriate. The reality was she hadn't gone there to make memories, she had gone there to flex on people and make enemies.
My favorite Cuba moments? No, I wanna complain some more about white people.
Her white person manifesto was just more self-serving BS. Simply another excuse to justify why she was so miserable and angry on her luxury holiday. She could have booked a more humble holiday in a hostel, a hotel, a motel, or an Airbnb and interacted with locals. She books the most privileged holiday you could get and moans about it to cover up the fact that she's having a miserable time. Once she left Cuba, she didn't help the Cubans in any way, shape or form. She didn't sponsor a poor child's education through school or university. She didn't donate books or computers or any kind of stationery to schools. She didn't even offer her services to Cuban charities to help people on the island once she left it. So she didn't even think of becoming a volunteer because that would mean work. Chantel is the antithesis of a charitable human. She used Cuban poverty to flex on her viewers and also to justify why she was so miserable. As long as she's giving men that look like this computers, I guess their Cuban lives don't matter. Chantel ticked every box, sometimes twice, sometimes thrice. She even managed to tick the box for being unemployable by not becoming a volunteer to help the poor Cuban people. This is part 1 of a 2-part series. Part 2, I will be moving away from the mind and exploring the body. Chantel's diet, health and fitness. I bet she's good. Foodie Beauty, aka Chantel, often flexes about her fitness on social media, but how fit is she really? Don't answer that question before you watch the whole of the video, but before that, here's something else.
Underneath the mango tree, make Hulu look so. La da da dee da da dee, honey and me.
Underneath the mango tree, my honey and me.
Chantel has every right to classify herself as a great beauty. Some people may even look at her and see her as the world sees Ursula Andress. The issue I have with her is she is aggressively vile about other people's looks, from people she knows to complete strangers. The reason why is covered in part 1 of the series, The Mind of Chantel. If you want to know, please watch that video. Today we are going to debunk and analyse her fitness and diet claims.
47, you cannot do more than me, bitch. I just watched 25 minutes, biatch. What? Huh? Let's not go there.
Let's go there. I've run several walking groups for elders. Many of the people are over 90. The sessions last for 60 minutes and 25 minutes would be our warm-up.
Her first marathon at 76 years old. And this weekend, her hand to her heart, about to do it again at 92. On the left, there's Harriet, a 2-time cancer survivor. Her 16th marathon, this one in San Diego. 7 hours, 24 minutes later.
47, you cannot do more than me, bitch. Show you on my OnlyFans all the positions I can do now.
Yourself at 62?
63.
63?
This is a yoga pose. You go like this.
Yes, your brain now? You convert?
47, you cannot do more than me, bitch.
I am Ernestine Shepherd, 80 years of age. I bench press 110 pounds. I have been in 6 or 7 competitions.
And Chantel thinks she's fit because she can do this.
7, you cannot do more than me, bitch. Oh. 47, you cannot do more than me, bitch. 47, you cannot do more than me, bitch. Show you on my OnlyFans all the positions I can do now. 47, you cannot do more than me, bitch.
As Chantel leads a fairly reclusive lifestyle, she doesn't get feedback on her diet and exercise from professionals or experts. Analysing Amberlyn Reid videos, it was clear she had foundation and had been taught properly by professionals. When I watched Foodie beauty videos, it was clear she was taught by nobody but herself at home. So let's start with flexibility. How flexible is Miss Chantel?
This is a yoga pose. You go like this.
Yes.
Two things wrong here. The first thing, that is not a yoga pose. Secondly, putting your arms out like an airplane is pointless. It is not a balance as your entire body is being supported by the bench. However, she does have fairly good inner thigh flexibility. This means that her inner thigh muscles have some good stretch on them. Your inner thigh muscles or your adductor muscles are the muscles that stretch to allow your legs to open. However, I think this tiny amount of inner thigh flexibility comes from a consequence of her being super morbidly obese as opposed to her training her flexibility. If you look at the leg position of Manuel here, you can see he's actually lying down in the box splits. That's because his large stomach and legs have forced his legs apart 24/7. His belly and leg fat is working on his legs rather like the leg stretching machines I used to use for martial arts and dance. You would actually have to pull on the bar to force your legs open for about 10 minutes a day. And this would increase your inner thigh flexibility. So like Manuel, Chantel has a large stomach and thighs which push her legs apart 24/7. Every time she sits down, she's sitting like this. Her legs are at a 40 to 45 degree angle. So like Manuel, she benefits from having large thighs and stomach. She's not sitting in the box splits like Manuel because her stomach and thighs just aren't as large. Okay, so that's a few muscles that she has some decent amount of flexibility in. What about the hamstrings? What about Amberlyn's toe touch? Can she do that?
I can't reach my toes actually, Kiki. Oh no!
Not that touching your toes is a sign of general flexibility in the body, but she just couldn't do it. She said she could do it, but she couldn't, so I'm going to judge her. Her hamstring flexibility is poor. Amberlyn still keeps her crown. So what about the flexibility in the upper part of her body? She's doing side bends here. Or is she? I say this because she's actually bending her elbow more than she's bending to the side. She actually has very little side bending flexibility, and one side is worse than the other. If you look at this elderly woman doing yoga, you can see that her body is actually bending to the side. If we compare her position to where Chantel's body is, Chantel is barely bending her body to the side at all, and she's practically upright. What she is bending is her elbow, which is a common mistake when people do side bends. Looking at Chantel's body overall, her flexibility is poor. I am taking into account she does have a tiny amount of spinal rotation and some forward bending, but overall it's still poor. So let's move on to her strength. How strong is Chantel? There are two ways to train your strength, using external resistance like resistance bands or weights. Just don't use the tiny weights made for hobbits that Amberlyn is using. The second way is to use your own body weight as weight. So push-ups, sit-ups, squats, yoga, all ways to use your own body weight to improve your strength. I've never seen Chantel using weights or resistance bands, so that just leaves body weight exercises. The first thing I noticed when I saw Chantel doing floor exercise was her core strength was abysmal. When putting her hands down on the floor one at a time, and you are supposed to be able to put two hands on the floor easily from that position, she almost laid flat on the floor because her core strength, that's her torso strength, is so weak. She does some half decent leg raises, 4 on one side, 9 on the other, bizarre, but it's muscular endurance she's working here, not strength, so I'm moving on. She does have an exercise ball, but it's far too big for her tiny frame, so she just messes about on it. This is how you can use an exercise ball to help you do push-ups. If your arm strength is not great, you can use it this way. This will also improve weak core muscles. However, the ball Chantel uses is far too big. It supports her legs, so she's not even working her core. Because the ball is the wrong size, it's just the equivalent of an inflatable armchair. She has no upper body strength and a lot of atrophied muscles in her arms. So, what about the lower half of her body? How strong is that? You need strength in your legs in order for you to walk, run, jump, hop, skip. Chantel walks with a degree of frailty. She plants one foot down and swings the other forward. This lurching gait is associated with weak or wasted away muscles, especially around the hip and the outer thigh. I wasn't throwing hostile shade on my first video when I said she presented as elderly. She doesn't walk with strength, sturdiness, or carefreeness. She has a very frail and insecure gait and walks as if she has to think about every step she's taking. She really does need to build up the strength and the muscles in her legs. Otherwise, her walking will deteriorate to worse than it is, quicker than she thinks. A few leg raises for the camera is just not good enough. Due to her frailty in walking, her poor core strength, and no upper body strength whatsoever, her overall strength is poor. She also doesn't have the strength in her limbs or her legs to get off the floor without holding onto a piece of furniture or another person, making her function quite elderly and frail. How good is her cardiovascular fitness? We all know she thinks it's excellent.
47, you cannot do more than me, bitch. I just walked 25 minutes, biatch. What? Huh? Let's not go there.
7 hours, 24 minutes later.
Oh my god, I'm already out of breath. Why am I so out of shape?
That's a rhetorical question, but I'm going to answer it anyway.
My lungs. I think I need my inhaler. Oh shit. Oh god. Oh shit.
Chantel, you don't walk very far, you do not progress a distance, and you do not walk on a regular basis. The distance that you have walked is the distance to my bus stop. If you want to put Chantel's long walk into perspective, if you added another 26 miles, that would be the distance that Harriet ran in her marathons.
Why am I so out of shape?
Now here's the second reason. Shaquille O'Neal is over 7 foot tall. His heart and his lungs are in proportion to his height. Simone's heart and lungs are also in proportion to her height. So for comparison, Chantel is only about 4 inches taller than Simone Biles, yet she weighs more than Shaquille O'Neal. If your heart was designed to carry that much weight, you would be well over 7.5 feet. This is not rocket science. The more weight you put on, the harder your heart has to work. And that is why you don't see super morbidly obese people of any age running marathons, when you do see slim people who are in their 80s and 90s being able to run over 26 miles. Even when Chantel does what she calls her dancing, she cannot maintain it for very long. It's normally for a few seconds, never really over a couple of minutes. She just doesn't have the cardiovascular fitness or the stamina to dance properly. Considering all this, her cardiovascular fitness is poor. Muscular endurance is the ability for your muscles to keep doing a task without the muscles becoming fatigued or tired. Because she's mobile and she's not housebound or bedbound, her muscular endurance isn't bad. However, it isn't good. She just does not commit to a task long enough for her muscular endurance to improve. As someone who is a YouTuber, she spends far too much time in the car driving when she could be walking. For that reason, her muscular endurance is definitely not poor, but it's below average. And it can worsen if she gets even lazier. Agility is the ability to move quickly, easy and freely. Because of her physique and her lack of fitness, it combines to make her the antithesis of agility. When you are agile, you have the ability to control your body and to take it anywhere it needs to go. When you have no agility, gravity will control your body. Your movements will be slow, planned, thought out, as opposed to being carefree and without direction. Hopping, jumping, skipping, climbing, well, those things aren't going to happen. Chantel has the agility of a very, very elderly person, which is strange.
Old geriatric bitch criticizing younger, more attractive women who are overweight.
Even with the aid of the sofa, She gets up from the floor so cumbersome that you would think she's just broken her hip due to osteoporosis. She should be able to stand up in 2 steps without hanging on to anything. What her movements are saying is, I am frail. Small bursts of wiggly movements are not a sign of agility. Watch how she turns round compared to Tony Basil, who is almost 40 years older. Now, if Chantel tripped over, would she be able to come out of the trip into a forward roll, or would she fall flat on her face? Overall, Chantel's fitness is shockingly poor, made even worse because she flexes about it online all the time. I can't see her fitness improving as she thinks she's already fit. So all we can do is wait for nature to take its very, very predictable course. I'm going to briefly look at her diet, but I'm not going to spend too long on it because she basically knows nothing. She speaks about diet not based on knowledge or passion, just because she believes she is superior. Her diet information tends to be something she's heard from Amberlyn Reid, so we know it's not going to be good.
But we cannot guarantee that you'll still walk at 40.
Case in point, this nonsense.
You need to eat, bitch. You need to eat carbs. That's your fucking problem. You need carbs. You're a fucking bitch. You need carbs. You're a bitch. You need carbs.
First of all, Dr. Now would disagree with you. Can you speak a little louder, Dr. Now?
So we're going to start with the 1,200 calorie a day, high protein, low carb diet. So I'll give you a packet that breaks the whole diet down where you eat only 3 times a day, no snacking.
Carbohydrate is nature's rocket fuel, and no matter how much you like fast food and carbohydrate, it will not change a thing. The body burns carbohydrate when we do strenuous, powerful, or explosive movements. The body will burn carbohydrate if you're doing weight training, if you're pushing something heavy, if you're pulling something heavy, if you're running up a flight of stairs, if you're walking up a flight of stairs, if you're walking up a hill, if you're hopping, skipping, or jumping, doing any kind of explosive movement, you will be burning carbohydrate. Chantel's once a year walk up a 400-meter slope and back again, and whatever this is not enough to burn carbohydrates. The human body is not good at storing carbohydrate because we're not plants. So what it does, if we have any excess, it converts it into fat and stores it around and around and around the body. Not only is Chantel eating carbohydrate in amounts that the human body was never designed to eat, she's eating far too much in general. To be her current weight, she has to be eating 7 to 9 meals a day. A 5-foot woman should not be eating more than a basketball player who's over 7 foot tall. The outlook doesn't look good. When I teach kids, I always say, no one is going to bother with your diet and your fitness once you are over the age of 18 years old. So learn as much as you can. I would use Foodie Beauty as a teaching aid. This is a way you should not live your life. There are thousands of gorgeous women that I can use for positive inspiration. Chantel is a warning to the young. Be inspired by the right people and you can live a long, fit and beautiful, healthy life. Chantel is also a warning to all adults. Don't ever think you're too old to be inspired by your fellow humans. You're not.
Can't reach my toes, actually, Kiki. Oh no!